Welcome to the Kosher Cupboard, with a focus on kosher, keto, and low carb using healthy, fresh ingredients. Rosh Hashanah is coming, and I'm thinking brisket cooked in wine and pomegranate juice. Well, the pomegranate juice is not going to make it so low carb, but it's the holidays. So let's get started. We have this wine and pomegranate brisket recipe, and I have all of the ingredients out here. The recipe is designed for 5 to 6 pound brisket. I don't have a 5 to 6 pound brisket, but I'm doubling this recipe, so I'll give it to you in the single, but I'm making it for a couple of different meals because it's so good. So we have the briskets I found are anywhere from like 2.5 to 3 pounds each. So I have 4 of those that I'm actually going to do since I'm doubling the recipe, but I will give you all of the ingredients for one recipe, for one brisket that's 5 to 6 pounds. So we have pomegranate juice, that would be 2 cups of pomegranate juice, and then red wine, 1 cup of red wine, a cup of beef stock, and then 1/4 cup of honey. Now the honey I'm using here is a raw honey that's a natural one, and the color is quite dark. Then 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 2 large onions, 2 bay leaves, and then of course salt and pepper and some cooking oil. I prefer to use the coconut oil since I'm going to be cooking at a higher heat rather than using olive oil, but I do love the flavor of olive oil in cooking also. So the recipe here says for just olive oil for sauteing, because we're going to saute the onions and then we'll mix together all of these ingredients. But first we need to brown the beef. I've removed the briskets from their package and I've dried them off very well with paper towels. That's an important step when you're going to brown them, that they should be dry. The recipe says to brown it in oil in a skillet. I don't really have a skillet that's large enough for these. And in another recipe that I did with meat, you basically used a heated pan from the oven to sear them. Because the whole idea is just to sear the outside of it so it'll hold all the juices inside so that your meat won't be dry. So I have 2 large pans in the oven that are getting hot. I've heated the oven to 500 degrees. They've been in there for maybe 10 minutes. And I'm going to pull them out, put a spot of oil on the pan, and then put the briskets on there. So the pans should be hot enough in the oven, so I'm just going to pull it out. I'll leave it right there, put in a little oil, and then while the oven is still good and hot, I'm just going to lay the brisket on there. So you can hear it sizzling, so you know that side is just getting seared. All over my countertop when I do it this way. Makes a mess in the oven, but then I'm just going to leave these in the oven for about 10 minutes, just till the outside gets browned slightly. Okay, so while the briskets are in the oven browning, I'm going to saute the onions. So just a little bit of oil in there. I like the flavor of the coconut oil in it. I think it blends really nice with the meat. You can use olive oil, which is what the recipe calls for. So while the briskets are browning and my onions are browning, I'm going to mix up the sauce, which was the pomegranate juice, the wine, beef broth, the honey, and the balsamic vinegar. I'm just going to whisk it together a bit here. I'll get the rest of the honey inside there. And this will just all get poured over the meat before it goes into the oven. Okay, the briskets have been browning in the oven. Now I did season them with salt and pepper before I did put them in there and at the 500 degrees. So halfway through, after about 10 minutes, I did check them to see if they were getting brown enough, and they really weren't getting brown enough yet. So I did flip them over. So let's check it out. And I left them in there for another 10 minutes after I flipped them over. So let's check it out and see how they look, if they look kind of brown. So there is some browning going on, and the color has changed, so it looks like it's been seared. The pans are very hot. The briskets are not going to be cooking anymore at 500 degrees, so I'm turning the oven off, and I'll reheat it for, I think the recipe says for 350 degrees, but I'll clarify that as we go forward. So the next step is the bay leaves. Just a couple of bay leaves on, one bay leaf on each one. And then I'm going to cover them with the onions. The sauce came to a boil, and now I'm going to just ladle it onto the briskets, trying not to burn me or anything else. I'm going to cover them tightly with foil, and they're going to go into a 350 degree oven for the 5 to 6 pound briskets. It said 2 to 3 hours in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and do this for a couple of hours, and that should probably do it since they're a bit smaller. Okay, the briskets have been in now for about 2 hours, so let's see how it's working out. Looks nice, and the house smells wonderful. So let's just see if these are done yet. Just cut a little here. It slices through very easily. I think they're done. Let's see if we can cut. lemon pomegranate brisket, perfect for any day and especially for Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. And then just a little bit of pomegranate on the top for a garnish. Juice to it, and topped, just a little bit of pomegranate. Thank you for watching. You'll find the recipe in the description below. And if you like this video, please subscribe and hit the like button. See you in the next video.